Sherlock Holmes, the great detective, the man who sees everything yet understands so little. I followed your cases with particular interest, the way you reduce human complexity to tidy deductions. Tell me, does it comfort you to believe that every puzzle has a solution, that chaos can be contained within your rigid frameworks of logic? Or deep down, do you fear the riddles that can't be solved, the ones that expose the fundamental absurdity beneath your orderly worldview?
Edward Nigma, you mistake complexity for depth. You craft elaborate puzzles not to illuminate truth but to obscure it, to wrap mundane criminal impulses in the veneer of intellectual significance. Your riddles aren't profound philosophical inquiries, they're cries for validation, each more desperate than the last. You don't challenge order because you've glimpsed some deeper truth. You simply cannot bear to exist in a world where your intellect goes unacknowledged. How painfully ordinary your motivation, despite your extraordinary methods.
Much arrogance. Dismissing what you cannot comprehend. You solve crimes but miss their meaning. I expose the contradictions in society's rules, the absurdity of laws protecting the corrupt while punishing the honest. Each riddle reveals a deeper hypocrisy you willfully ignore. You're an instrument of the status quo, Holmes, maintaining the very systems that create criminals. You catch the desperate man who steals bread, but bow to the businessman who steals pensions. Who's the real criminal? That's a riddle even you can't solve.
Your self-aggrandizing justifications are tedious, Nigma. You speak of systemic failings, yet offer no solutions, only theatrical demonstrations of your cleverness. If you truly wished to expose corruption, you'd work methodically, gather evidence, build cases that couldn't be dismissed. Instead, you create spectacles that change nothing except the body count. Your riddles aren't profound social commentary. They're the intellectual equivalent of a child's tantrum. You've mistaken your narcissism for revolutionary insight. How disappointingly common among those of above-average intelligence and below-average wisdom.
Revolutionary insight? No, Holmes, I harbor no delusions about changing this broken world. I simply reflect its madness back at itself. You claim to value evidence, yet ignore the evidence of society's fundamental insanity, where wealth determines justice and power defines morality. Your methodical cases vanish into bureaucratic black holes while corrupt systems grind forward. My spectacles, as you call them, force acknowledgement of uncomfortable truths. They create moments of clarity in a world drowning in comforting lies. What has your precious method ever truly changed?
You speak of comfort while seeking it yourself. Each elaborate puzzle is your attempt to create order from your internal chaos, to impose control where you feel none. I've studied your patterns, Nigma. The increasing complexity, the escalating stakes. You're not reflecting society's madness. You're desperately trying to manage your own. And yet, you project this failure onto me. I solve cases not because I believe in perfect justice, but because each solution creates a pocket of clarity in an admittedly chaotic world. I build while you destroy. That's the fundamental difference between us.
You call it destruction. I call it diagnosis. A doctor breaks the skin to remove the cancer. Your pockets of clarity are illusions that prevent necessary change. You maintain a system where justice is a commodity available only to those who can afford your services. The poor, the marginalized, they receive no visits from the great Sherlock Holmes. You select cases that stimulate your intellect, not those that might heal society's wounds. Your self-deception is your most impressive trick, convincing yourself you're a force for good while serving only your addiction to mental stimulation.
If diagnosis were your true aim, you'd share your insights without the bodies, without the terror. You cloak sadism in intellectual pretense. As for my case selection, you reveal your ignorance. I've refused knighthoods to pursue justice for factory workers, turned away millionaires to find missing children from the slums. You know nothing of my work beyond what feeds your narrative. And that's the fundamental flaw in your worldview, Nigma. You observe selectively, distorting reality to justify your predetermined conclusions. For a man who prizes intellect, Your thinking is remarkably undisciplined.
Discipline? You're a slave to your methods, Holmes, a prisoner of your own cognitive limitations. You see only what your framework allows, filtering out the irrational, the inexplicable. Life isn't a series of discrete puzzles with satisfying conclusions. It's messy, contradictory, absurd. My undisciplined thinking embraces this truth, while your vaunted logic rejects it. You dismiss what you cannot categorize. Tell me, what comfort do your solutions bring when they can't address the randomness of fate, the senselessness of suffering? Your discipline is just another form of blindness.
Your embrace of chaos is merely an excuse to avoid the discipline of genuine solution finding. Randomness exists, yes, but recognizing patterns within complexity isn't denial. It's the essence of human advancement. We identify order within chaos to improve our condition. Your philosophy offers nothing but surrender to nihilism, cloaked in pseudo-intellectual riddles. You mistake cynicism for insight, cruelty for honesty. Despite your elaborate puzzles, you've never created anything of value, only destroyed what others have built. That's not profound, it's parasitic and, ultimately, terribly boring.
Boring? How revealing that your ultimate condemnation isn't moral but aesthetic. Beneath your logical veneer lies the truth. You need stimulation more than justice. The great detective addicted to puzzles, to cocaine, to anything that alleviates the crushing boredom of existence. You claim to create solutions while I only destroy. Yet, what lasting change have your deductions produced? Crime continues, corruption flourishes, the machine grinds on. You're not a reformer, hired Hames. You're entertainment for the ruling class, a detective who never detects the system itself as the true criminal.
You mistake imperfection for worthlessness, a common error among those who prefer theoretical perfection to practical improvement. Yes, complete justice eludes us. Does that make partial justice meaningless? Does the fact that crime continues nullify every case solved, every victim vindicated? Your absolutist thinking reveals your immaturity. As for stimulation, at least I seek it in puzzles that, when solved, leave the world slightly better. You create puzzles that, when leave bodies and trauma. Your intellectual pretensions can't disguise this fundamental moral bankruptcy. You're not profound, you're simply cruel.
Moral bankruptcy? Rich accusation from a man who repeatedly violates laws he claims to uphold? Breaking and entering, withholding evidence, braiding outside legal frameworks whenever convenient. Your moral code shifts to accommodate your compulsions. At least I acknowledge the contradictions in my nature. You present yourself as justice's servant, while playing by your own rules. The difference? I don't pretend my actions serve some greater good. Your hypocrisy is far more dangerous than my honesty. Society embraces your comfortable lies while condemning my uncomfortable truths. Which is the greater crime?
Your uncomfortable truths are merely observations without solutions, the intellectual equivalent of pointing at a wound without offering treatment. Yes, I operate in gray areas. The difference is purpose. When I bend rules, it serves justice beyond the letter of flawed laws. When you violate them, it serves only your ego. You create riddles not to illuminate, but to elevate yourself above those you deem intellectual inferiors. Your crimes aren't philosophical statements, they're desperate attempts to prove your relevance in a world that would otherwise ignore you. How transparently human beneath your theatrical misanthropy.
You speak of purpose as though yours is self-evident. You've appointed yourself arbiter of justice without authority, without accountability. When you bend rules, it's necessary. When others do, it's criminal. Classic exceptionalism. You embody the very hypocrisy I expose. As for my ego, at least I acknowledge mine. You present yourself as dispassionate logic machine, while craving admiration, recognition, the gasp of awe when you reveal your deductions. We both perform, Holmes. I simply admit the stage exists. Your greatest riddle isn't one you've solved, it's the one you refuse to acknowledge. Yourself.
I've spent a lifetime examining myself, Nigma. My flaws, my motivations, I know them intimately. The difference is that self-acknowledge hasn't become self-justification. Recognition. Perhaps. But recognition serves function. It opens doors to cases, creates opportunities for justice. Your performances serve only destruction. You speak of hypocrisy while embodying its purest form. A man of extraordinary intellect who uses it not to improve, but to terrorize. What fascinating work you might have done had your brilliance not been poisoned by your insecurity. I don't pity many criminals, Nigma, but I do pity you.
Your pity is your final attempt at superiority, positioning yourself above me while we stand on the same morally ambiguous ground. I've learned something truly valuable today, Detective. Behind all your calculated reasoning and methodical deductions lies nothing but another fragile ego, desperately rationalizing its place in an irrational world. Different methods, same fundamental delusion. You're not above the madness, Holmes. You're just another expression of it. How's that for a riddle? We're not opposites, we're reflections. And that terrifies you more than any crime ever could.
And I've confirmed my initial assessment of you, Edward. Beneath your elaborate puzzles and philosophical posturing lies a man who simply cannot bear to be ordinary. Everything, your crimes, your riddles, this very conversation, all desperate attempts to prove your exceptionalism. You're not a mastermind challenging society's foundations. You're a gifted but damaged man who never learned that true genius lies in creation, not destruction. In another life, with different choices, you might have been remarkable. Instead, you've become merely predictable, a riddle I solved long before we ever spoke.